Hi guys, it's Natalie here. Today I am going to share some of the tips and tricks that I know of to get the most out of your Doily Envelope Die. I know a lot of you have purchased this because it's just so super cute and it makes the most fabulous envelopes, and then have sometimes been struggling to get a really good cut with it. So I wanted to show you the different things that you can try to make this work. So the first thing, I'll just show you how this works. If you don't have it, I wanted to show you how this works. So it comes with two pieces. The smaller triangle bit for some side flaps, and then this large piece as well. Now this is quite large, and if you don't have a, so I've got a Big Shot Plus here, which has got an extended platform. It's wider and longer, and so of course it fits really nicely. But if you don't have one of these larger machines, I'm going to show you in a minute how to make this work if you just have one of the standard machines as well. But to start off, let me show you how fabulous this is. So with my Big Shot Plus, I'm just going to first of all just cut out the bigger piece. So let me put my paper down there, pop the die on top. Now you can cut both ways. You can cut with the paper first and then the die facing down, or you can cut with the die facing up and the paper on top. It really doesn't matter. And then just to make this quicker and easier, I'm going to place one of the triangle flaps, if you like, to cut at the same time. And this, of course, is just literally a case of running it through the machine. Now, it often makes that cracking noise, doesn't it? I'm sure your machine does the same, and the first time you hear it, you always get that kind of panic, like you've maybe broken something, but you haven't. And what I do is I make sure that, like, I run it forwards and then I run it back as well. And you can do this a couple of times. Like if your platforms are a little bit older, so see mine, how it's got like lots and lots of cuts in it. And in fact, it's kind of, if you can just appreciate that, it's a little bit warped and bent, and so the best place for it to cut is right here in the middle, where it's going to put the most pressure on. So sometimes what you'll find is that when you then pull this out of the machine, that it hasn't perhaps cut out, because this is such an intricate die, that it hasn't cut out all the pieces. So see that, and if you can see that on the back, you can, sorry, let me give you a bit of a demonstration. That it's clearly cut out these pieces nicely, but there's lots of areas in here where it hasn't really cut it out fabulously well. So what I do in those circumstances is just run it back through my machine again, and I want to place it in such a way, and this time I'll place it with the paper facing up, and I've put it right in the middle of my platform. Because as I said, the place where this top one is going to give you the most amount of pressure is right in the middle here, where it's sort of bent. And so I'm going to run it through on that place. And again, I'm just going to go back and forth a couple of times. And sometimes what you're going to need to do is shift this around to find the area cuts the best. And if you can see that now, it has definitely cut out all of the little details. Okay, so that's trick number one, is to run it through a couple of times and in different places to get the most out of your cutting pads. The other trick that you can try is, so if that's not the problem, if your cutting pads aren't bent like mine, is that when you place your die, and let me just pop this one out. And in fact, we need to do the same with this. So let's see this same problem with not all of the tiny little pieces getting cut out. So trick number two is that when you place this in to run it through again, is to grab a couple of scrap pieces of paper, and you just need to experiment. So I've got an old journal article, so scrap, complete scrap, and place them on top. So this is just normal sort of thin paper, and you're going to need to experiment to figure out, do you use one or two or three pieces of paper to create a bit of extra pressure on your die as it cuts. So I use 3 pieces here, and of course it kind of cuts out these scraps as well, but that's all right, so I'm just going to, throw these away. But now you can see that it's done a much better job of cutting out all of these little intricate bits again. And the way that I then, problem number 2 is then trying to get this out of your die, right? There's a couple of tricks to that as well. So I've got this little accessory from Sizzix. It's got a little brush and foam pad, and even sometimes without the foam pad, I just use this brush, and it's going to poke through all those tiny little holes, and it's going to pop out all of the extra bits. And then you're going to be able to see if there are places that haven't really been cut out properly. So there are still little bits and pieces that perhaps haven't been cut completely through. So I'm going to run it through again. And let's put this to one side. What's my trick number 3? Let's see, there's lots of tricks. So I'm going to now move to, I'll put my Big Shot Plus aside, because I know not everybody has that bigger machine. And I'm going to bring in just my standard Big Shot, so you can see the massive sort of size difference here. Now another trick that I've got for cutting these out is that I've got a metal base plate. It's called a precision plate, and again this is by Sizzix, to use with the Sizzix Big Shot machine. And if you put that down instead of one of your plastic plates, now this is what I was saying, if you've got one of these machines, then the Doily Envelope Die, it doesn't fit quite on one, like it's too long. The Doily Die is too long for the plate. And if you've got any of the other machines that are a similar size, you're going to find the same thing. But what we can do, because certainly the edges are nicely cut, it's really just this delicate part in here that needs to be cut. So this time I'm going to use my metal base plate, or my precision plate, and put that down on the bottom. Turn my die over, and again I'm just going to position the area that I need cut out sort of in the center where it's going to get the most amount of pressure, and then I use the standard plate on the top and now run it through. So this is trick number, whatever number I'm up to, 3, 4, is to get hold of a metal shim or a metal base plate, because it does tend to cut out these intricate dies much more precisely. And again, I'm just going to use my little thing here to see if these are getting popped out, and they're getting popped out much better again this time around. So I'm going to risk it and actually take this off. And what you need to do, so I've only done one side of it through, and then of course what you needed to do is then turn it around the other way. So here's where I might bring in my foam pad and see if any of these other little pieces are going to pop out, and lots of them are. So we're definitely winning here. Sometimes, because there's so many of these tiny little pieces that need to be punched out, and if you don't have one of these little tools, of course you can go in with one of, I call them poking tools, but any kind of pick that's going to just pop out each of these. Obviously this is a little bit of a slower way of doing things, but it will work just as well. So there you go. So those are all my different tricks of getting this die to cut out. And now, of course, I want to show you how this whole thing gets assembled to make your doily envelope. So, of course, we've cut this piece out. I've cut one of these pieces out, and I need to pop him out as well. So see how quick and easy. I love this tool. It's great for these kinds of dies. So I'm just going to pop this edge out, because these delicate dies do tend to sort of get the paper sort of stuck in there, don't they? So there's one piece, and I need to cut out one more of these. So where is the original piece of card that I'm using, which is an A5 or an 8.5 by 11, is just big enough to cut out the whole doily envelope. So I'm just going to trim this off because there's enough of a spare piece here to cut out my other side. And grab my top plate. It gets a little bit tougher to turn with that metal plate, but that's how you know, like, it's putting more pressure on and it's going to cut it out nicely. So I think that has almost done it on the first go. Let's try out the magic tool, poke all these pieces out, almost in one go. And here is the second part of it. So these are the three pieces that you need to create your doily envelope. Now, let me move some of this mess. Obviously, this does get a little bit messy, and I'll create this doily envelope for you here on this black background so that you can see it work. So what you want to do is bend over, and there is score lines here already pre-cut or pre-scored from the die, and you want to fold these sides in. So that's going to create a flap like this, and then with your two others you can see again that there's a score line across here, and you want to score them or bend them over. And then I typically use double-sided tape to glue mine on, but of course you can use any sort of adhesive to then pop these onto the side. So I pop a little bit of tape here. And then line this up here. And stick it down. We're going to do the same with the other part. To stick him down. And there you have it. There is your doily envelope. It can be oriented both ways. So like if you created sort of a portrait style card or a landscape style card, and you can choose to have the smaller flaps on the inside and the larger flaps on the outside, which is the way that it works the best, or you can do it the other way as well. And then of course the question is, so you know, you'd make your card and you'd pop the card in there, and how you would close this ultimately. And there's a few different ways, of course, you can do that. However you can imagine. Here's some things that I have thought of. So one, you could cut out another die cut and use a bit of tape to stick him down there. You could use a flare. These ones have got sticky on them, so you could stick them down with a flare. So that's pretty cool. You could use some tags. So any kind of embellishment, you could then use an embellishment to create a little decoration here to stick it down. Or You could grab some string or some ribbon and wrap it around. And tie it up that way. So lots of fun variations about how you can close this, but of course the beauty is in the fact that this doily envelope is so cute and so detailed, which of course can be just a little bit of a fiddle to cut out, but so worth it. And hopefully today I've shared with you some tricks that you can try either on your bigger machine or even on your standard size machine so that you can get some really good results with cutting this doily envelope die out. All right guys, thanks for joining with me, and I'll see you again next time. If you have any other questions or any other suggestions of how you make your intricate dies work, please feel free to share them in the comments so that we can all learn these tips and tricks together. See you later.